Have you ever found yourself saying yes when deep inside you knew it should have been a no? You smile, nod, offer help, agree to plans, or take on one more responsibility, but something inside you tightens. There's a quiet resistance, a subtle weight, a flicker of exhaustion. Your voice says yes, but your heart whispers no. And yet, you say it anyway, not because you want to, but because you feel like you have to. Maybe it's offering support to a friend when what you really need is stillness, or staying late at work, again, while your own dreams wake quietly in the background, or going along with someone else's version of your life while the real you, your deepest, most honest self, remains silent, watching, waiting. What if I told you that every time you say yes when you mean no, you're not just being agreeable or polite, you're actually making a powerful, energetic decision, one that echoes through your body, your relationships, and even your future, one that affects your emotional state, your sense of self-worth, your spiritual alignment, and your connection to the life you truly want. This video isn't about selfishness. It's about sovereignty. It's not about shutting people out. It's about finally letting yourself in. It's about realizing that your energy, your time, and your choices are sacred. And when you give them away carelessly, the cost is far greater than it appears. In the next hour, I want to offer you something, not just insight, but a framework. Not just ideas, but transformation. By the time we're done, you'll understand how to recognize the difference between a conscious yes and a compromising one. You'll begin to feel what it's like to say no from your center, not from fear or defensiveness, but from wisdom, clarity, and love. You'll begin to feel the power of your authentic alignment. You'll start to remember that your boundaries are not walls. They are invitations for the world to meet the real you. And I want you to know something before we continue. This message didn't find you by accident. You didn't stumble on this by coincidence. There's something inside you that's ready to shift, ready to heal, ready to take your energy back, the part of you that's tired of being tired, the part of you that no longer wants to live by obligation, fear, or performance. That part of you brought you here. So let's honor that. Let's begin by looking at what I call the shadow of yes. For so many of us, our inability to say no is not a personality quirk. It's not just that we're too nice or too generous. It runs deeper. It lives in our psychology, in our nervous systems, in our cultural programming, and in our spiritual wounds. Saying yes all the time, especially when we don't want to, is often a learned response, a survival strategy, a wound response wrapped in the costume of kindness. Think back to when you were young. What did you learn about love and belonging? Were there moments when you felt that you had to be helpful to be loved? Were there consequences for saying no? Did you see adults around you abandon their own needs for the sake of others, and were they praised for it? For many of us, the ability to say no was never modeled. In fact, it was often punished. We learned early on that saying yes made us good and saying no made us difficult. This creates what psychologists call an abandonment schema, a deep, often unconscious fear that if we don't accommodate others, we will be rejected or left behind. That if we say no, people will stop loving us or will be seen as selfish, cold, or uncaring. Over time, this fear gets woven into the fabric of how we relate to people. We begin to associate boundaries with danger and people-pleasing with safety. Another shadow that drives the compulsive yes is the belief that our value lies in what we do for others, not in who we are. Many of us were raised in families, cultures, or religious environments that praised self-sacrifice and service while ignoring or even shaming personal needs. You might have learned that your worth was tied to how useful, agreeable, or selfless you could be. But here's the truth. Your worth has never been conditional. It has never depended on your performance, your productivity, or your people-pleasing. You were born worthy. You don't have to earn it. And the moment you begin to believe that, your entire relationship with boundaries begins to shift. Sometimes our yes isn't even about fear, it's about control. We say yes because we're trying to manage how others perceive us. We say yes to avoid conflict, to keep the peace, to ensure we're seen as kind or reliable. But in doing so, we give away our truth. We give away our energy. We start living a life that belongs to everyone but us. The deeper shadow behind all of this is the unconscious denial of your finite time on this earth. When you realize that your days are numbered, that your energy is limited, that your life is a sacred and unrepeatable miracle, then you begin to take your yes more seriously. You begin to understand that saying no isn't rude, it's reverent. It's how you protect the sacred. Your no is not just a refusal. It's an affirmation of what truly matters. Now let's turn to the sacred no, the most powerful phrase you've been taught to fear. Saying no is not rejection. It's protection. It's not selfish. It's a declaration of what you hold sacred. In spiritual terms, your no is a guardian of your highest alignment. When you say yes, while your energy says no, you fracture your field. You create dissonance inside yourself. And that dissonance drains you, not just emotionally, but energetically, physically, even spiritually. When you say no with clarity and compassion, you are speaking the language of energy. You're saying, this is where I end and you begin. This is what I am available for, and this is what I am not. This is how I keep my field clean, so that my yes can be whole, honest, and powerful. Boundaries are not walls. They are clarity. They are the filter through which your energy stays aligned with your truth. They are how you honor your sacred yes and your sacred life. And just like your values, your boundaries can evolve. What was once a yes may become a no. What once drained you may no longer have a place in your field. And that's okay. In fact, that's growth. Saying no with love is an advanced spiritual practice. It requires presence. It requires self-awareness. It requires the willingness to tolerate someone else's discomfort without betraying yourself in the process. You can say no with grace. You can say no with clarity. You can say no and still be deeply kind. Here are a few examples of clean, conscious ways to say no. Thank you for thinking of me, but I'm not able to take that on. This doesn't align with where I need to focus right now. I'm honored you asked, and I need to decline. I can't give that my full energy, so I'm going to pass. Notice, there are no apologies, no justifications, no elaborate stories. Just clarity, just truth. The people who respect you will honor these boundaries, and those who don't, they were benefiting from your lack of boundaries. Their discomfort is not your problem to fix. Let them sit with it. Your job is to stay true. Let's now explore the energetic dimension of boundaries. Everything in this universe is energy. Your words, your choices, your emotions, they all emit frequency. When you say yes out of obligation, you resonate with obligation. And guess what? The universe responds to your frequency. It mirrors it back to you. More obligation, more draining commitments, more people who expect you to abandon yourself. When you say yes from inspiration, alignment, and joy, you emit a different frequency, and life responds with more opportunities that match that joy. The universe is not random, it's reflective. Saying yes when you mean no creates what energy workers call leaks in your field. These are the areas where your life force seeps out, where your vitality drains. Chronic fatigue, resentment, creative stagnation, and even physical symptoms like sore throats, stomach knots, or tension headaches. These are not random. They are your body's way of saying, I'm out of alignment. Conversely, saying no when you mean no, saying yes when you mean yes, this seals those leaks. It restores integrity to your field. It brings your energy back home. It nourishes rather than depletes. From a consciousness perspective, your boundaries are a declaration of self-respect. They are how you train others to relate to you, and more importantly, how you relate to yourself. When you honor your energy, others learn to do the same. Saying no becomes an act of trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in life. Trust that what is aligned will find you, and what isn't doesn't need to stay. This is where your healing becomes power. Now let's bring this all together into something you can practice. Before you say yes to anything, pause, take a breath. Ask yourself, does this expand me or contract me? Does this light me up or drain me? Am I saying yes because I want to, or because I'm afraid of what will happen if I don't? This awareness alone can transform your life. If you struggle to say no in the moment, use a pause phrase. Say, let me check my calendar and get back to you. Or, I need to think about it. Create space between the request and the response. In that space, you'll find your truth. Track your energy. Journal. After each interaction or commitment, ask yourself, did that nourish me or deplete me? Over time, you'll see patterns. You'll see who and what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Practice saying no out loud, to yourself in the mirror, to small requests. Build the muscle, rewire the fear, and perhaps most importantly, forgive yourself for all the times you betrayed your own needs, for all the times you didn't know better. You were doing the best you could with what you knew. Now you know more. Now you can choose differently. Finally, let's close with this. This journey is not about perfection. It's about presence. You will say yes when you mean no again. You'll fall back into old patterns. That's okay. The work is not about never falling. It's about noticing faster, choosing better, and honoring yourself more deeply each time. And as you do this, you change not just your life, but the collective field we all live in. Your boundaries create space for others to rise. Your authenticity gives permission for others to be honest, too. Your courage sends ripples through this world. So I ask you, what do you truly want to say yes to? What would your life look like if every yes was inspired, energized, aligned? Who would you become if you no longer gave your energy away in fear or obligation? You already know the answer. You're not here to live everyone else's version of your life. You're not here to prove yourself through exhaustion. You're not here to be agreeable at the cost of your soul. You're here to be you, fully, unapologetically, and joyfully. And that begins with one small, sacred word, no. No to the draining. No to the pretending. No to the patterns that keep you small. And yes, yes to your truth. Yes to your peace. Yes to the life that's waiting for the real you to show up. It's time. Say yes to yourself, so that the yes you offer the world can come from your fullest, most authentic being. You're worth that, and so is the world.